G'day legends, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. We're going to talk the November 1st deadline, which is approaching tomorrow, November 1st, and there's a lot of stars in our game that are available to talk to other clubs for season 2026. Now, whether you like this system or not, that's not the conversation today. The conversation is the reality of these guys that are available to talk to other clubs and what I think are the top 10 most interesting guys coming off that list. So we'll go through, we've got about 30 names here that we've got written down on our magic whiteboard, and I'm going to go through the other 20 and just mention them. The guys that got very close to getting a feature, but I have a top 10 that I have done, and we'll go through that very soon. Obviously, today's episode brought to you by Neds, guys. You can jump onto the Neds app, follow along with the Guru profile, keep up to date with all of our bets. We've got a same game multi coming your way this weekend for the Tonga v New Zealand game, so make sure you go check that out and follow along. Kano Keeney, Daniel Tupu, both over $2. Thanks for coming. I think Tonga put up a serious fight in that one this weekend. Kathmandu bringing you in. Halloween today, and a lot of the people at home have suggested you've dressed up like me, which I absolutely love and appreciate.
I know. I might have to unveil the look. Now, there is a story behind why I'm dressed the way that I'm dressed.
So as we arrive today, I get out of my car and Kat's parked in front of me, and I noticed that Kat has got chocolate up and down one side of her jeans, which let's call a spade. Yeah. It looks like you'd shit yourself, which I thought was hilarious.
You've said that too many times today.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat it again, but proceed.
Anyway, so I had to take my pick from what was available in the studio to change because I refused to walk around with jeans that look like that today. And there was the option of 2XL, 3XL or 4XL Guru shorts. And I think I'm actually not sure what size these ones are. I think a double XL.
I think so, yeah.
So I've just made them work for myself. I've had to improvise a little bit. It's taken me back to high school days, like turning the shorts, the band over like I'm 16. But very comfortable. And in the end, I look like you. And you know what's even better is I think I'm going to wear these again. They are so comfortable.
Yeah, you're not pulling it off, to be fair.
I appreciate that.
Kat's walking around the studio today like she just got back from Thailand and looks like she would kickbox the living shit out of me.
Someone commented that I look like I was about to get into a Muay Thai fight, so watch yourself.
Not wrong, to be fair.
Not wrong.
Good gear, very good. All right, let's have a look at some of the guys coming off November 1st. So I have got a top 10 that I'm going to go through. Some of the guys that missed the list, Reece Walsh is one of them. I just refuse to believe he is leaving. I think he will re-sign up there at the Brisbane Broncos, especially with everything going on up there. He will remain there. Bronson Xerri's another one. I've got reasonably good mail that he is going to stay at the Canterbury Bulldogs, so I'm not overly concerned about that one. Josh King, I think he'll stay at the Melbourne Storm. I just don't think there's going to be clubs that are going to pay overs for Josh King, and Craig Bellamy knows what he can get out of him at the rate he's at, so I think he'll stay there. Tohu Harris, I don't think he'll leave the Warriors. I think he will finish his career there. Dylan Walker, I just don't think it's as interesting as some of the other guys. CNK, DWZ, I think they'll stay. Trent Leary, very similar to Josh King. I think he'll remain down there. Braden Trindle, I think he will get locked up at the Sharkies. I think he's becoming too important to them to let him go, and I think that Braden Trindle will do the right thing by the Sharkies and stay with them after they've stood by him through a few things. Adam Dewey's interesting. Only just missed our top 10, Adam Dewey. I do think he will move somewhere, if I'm honest with you. I'm not sure where, but just missed our top 10. Outside of that, guys, Adam Elliott, I think he'll stay. Bryce Cartwright, I think he'll stay. Jacko Hastings, I'm not sure where Jacko's going to land. He's still on contract, though, realistically, so we'll see where all that plays out. But yeah, these are our top 10, or my top 10 that I think are the most interesting, and I'll explain why. We're going to start at number 10, Kathmandu. What do we got?
Okay. At number 10, we have Cory Jensen.
Now, Cory Jensen, I've got him in my top 10. He's not the biggest superstar on this list and whatnot, but I think when you look around this league, there is a number of teams that need a reliable and genuine front row forward in our game. And for me, I think Cory Jensen's one of the more slept on front row forwards in our game. I think because he's up there at the Brisbane Broncos and you've got Papenhuyzen, you've got Paddy Carrigan, these guys that have these incredible stats, I think sometimes we sleep on Cory Jensen. I think if picked to play for Queensland, he would come in and he would do a bloody good job. He is a very, very good front row forward, Cory Jensen. I think he will be an interesting one. The Brisbane Broncos can't hold on to all these stars. I do think, though, Cory Jensen will be a real Michael Maguire guy. I think that no one will appreciate what Cory Jensen does more than Madge. So I do think he will end up staying in Brisbane, but I think there's a number of clubs that will come for him, and I think he will get offered a little bit more than what we would have ever anticipated 12 months ago. The need for front row forwards in this competition is real, and it's why we'll get deeper into the top 10, but there's a front row forward that's right at the top for me, I think a lot of clubs will go after for potential. Cory Jensen, he is consistent. You know what you're going to get each and every week. I think he's a very, very interesting talking point, and I think there'll be a lot of clubs that will come after him. Kathmandu, number 9. What have we got?
Number 9, we have Pearce-Paul.
Oh, one of my boys. Okay. KPP up there at the Newcastle Knights. I have said all year, I feel like he is playing on eggshells. I feel like him and a lot of guys up at Newcastle are scared of making mistakes because they think they could lose their spot at any given moment. KPP doesn't look overly happy to me. I personally don't think KPP will be in Newcastle in 2026. I don't think it's quite gelling with Adam O'Brien. I don't think they're getting the best out of Pearce-Paul, and I think that's a little bit frustrating for him. I think he will move. Where he goes to, I'm not entirely sure, but... And I know I've copped a lot of shit for it this year and whatnot. KPP was very good this year for the Knights. He has got so much more upside to him, it's not even funny. And I think that if he can find a coach that's going to genuinely put his arm around him and try and get the best out of Pearce-Paul, I think he could be a fantastic signing. We already mentioned Madge Maguire. Wouldn't surprise me if he's one, potentially having a look at a Pearce-Paul. He's obviously had some experience over there in the English Super League and whatnot. He would have seen KPP over there and what he's capable of. There's a number of clubs in this league that I think could make a serious play at Pearce-Paul. I don't think he'll remain at Newcastle. I think he will make a move, and I think he's going to be very, very hot property. You are paying for a bit of potential there, but personally, I'm super confident you get an absolute gun out of Pearce-Paul. Only just come over from the Super League, 1 preseason under his belt. Once he's got 2 and 3 by the time he's playing for a new club, I think they could be sitting in a really, really good spot, whoever gets Pearce-Paul. Let's move to number 8, Kathmandu. Who we got?
We have James Tedesco.
Oh, Teddy. Okay. So Teddy's obviously getting older. I think he's 31, 32 years of age as it stands right now. I just think this will be super interesting. I think that it wouldn't surprise me if Teddy potentially retires at the end of next season. I know it doesn't look like he's slowing down whatsoever, but I don't know. I've just got a feeling we are getting to the back end of the career of James Tedesco. I do think there's an opportunity for another club out there to potentially sign Teddy and bring him there for the last year or 2 of his career, just to bring some experience into the building, a true leader and whatnot. But I tell you what, the Roosters, as can be called it the other day, their nest, they don't tend to let too many guys go. I think there'll be a lot of teams that will make a play at Teddy, and personally, I almost think Teddy would rather sort of retire than have to play against the Sydney Roosters. I think he is just a Rooster through and through now. Obviously started the Tigers, been a captain of this club for a long time. But I think the thing that's interesting with James Tedesco is that you've got a guy like Ryan Papenhuyzen who's off contract right now. I've said for a long time, I think that the Roosters will make a play for Kalen Ponga eventually. I can just see it happening. He's one of the biggest superstars in the game. I don't know if he can win a comp up at Newcastle realistically. I think the Roosters would be eyeing off Kalen Ponga, and I think they have been eyeing him off for quite some time. Where does that fit with Teddy? Does he re-sign and play 5'8"? Does he retire? Does he maybe go elsewhere? I'm not too sure. I think there's a few ways this could play out with James Tedesco, but I think he's a really interesting talking point to see if, I'm not even sure if James Tedesco would be having conversations with other clubs. This is one thing that the Roosters do better than most sides. November 1st arrives, you look at the list and go, oh my God, look at the guys from the Roosters that are available, but they've worked it out behind closed doors, and it's all sorted and they're all sweet. So we'll see what happens with James Tedesco, but I think he is a very, very interesting one here, and I think it could have a little bit of a domino effect. The Roosters, they do not sit on their hands when it comes to recruitment. They go and recruit guys that they think can win them a premiership. And I just think they will have to go and sign a big name fullback in the next few years. So what happens with Teddy is going to be super interesting. I think Ryan Papenhuyzen, being available to talk to him right now, I think that will interest the Roosters quite a bit. KP in the future, as I said. One to watch with Teddy. He's an interesting one. Number 7, what have we got, Kathmandu?
We've got Briton Nikora.
Briton Nikora, okay. Over there at the Sharkies, they have got a stack of depth in all their positions. I think he's probably the most underappreciated back rower in rugby league. Great defensively, runs a great line. He showed us a number of times throughout this season the ball playing that he's got as well. Personally, he's obviously a Kiwis back rower. He's not playing at the moment because he got injured towards the back end of the season. I think he had to go and have surgery. But for me, I think if he was an Aussie, he'd be playing State of Origin, and I think he'd be doing good things. He's a very, very good player, Briton Nikora. I think he's probably the best back rower that's available. I think there will be a lot of clubs that will be going very hard at him. Obviously, KPP, there's potential there. Briton Nikora, you know what you're going to get every single week. He's one of the more consistent players in this competition. I think the Sharkies, they'd be looking at their next 2 to 3 years going, this is a real premiership window. I think Briton Nikora is a very important part of that. But when you look at the way that squad is built and all the guys that are coming through that are going to be worth more money, like your Atkinsons and all your sort of Stone Street, all your depth guys there, they've got a very good 1 to 17, but none of them are absolute superstars, but none of them are on bottom dollar. So something's going to have to give at some point. You've got 2 big name Sharkies or 3 big name Sharkies that are on this list. The other 2 will be coming soon. I think they hold on to Briton Nikora, but there will be a number of clubs that will be in the market to get their paws on him. He's going to be an interesting one. Number 6, Kathmandu, what do we got?
All right, number 6, we have a very interesting character, very much spoken about at the moment. It is Josh Addo-Carr.
Josh Addo-Carr, obviously there's a lot of drama going on there at the moment. He's going to front the Bulldogs board, I believe, today or tomorrow to see where it plays out with his future. Realistically, I can't see Fox remaining at Canterbury past 2025. I think it's probably very unlikely he's there in 2025. So I think this one might become available a little bit earlier. There's obviously been a lot of movement over the last few days with Ben Hunt leaving Parramatta, releasing Clint Gutherson. So there's clubs that are available to go out and grab guys. The Dragons, I would imagine that they'd be sitting there wanting Gutho, but obviously Josh Addo-Carr, if he's available, you've got to consider him as well to bring to the club. I think they'll go Gutho. Where Fox lands will be super interesting. A lot of people suggesting the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I think he would absolutely kill it under Wayne Bennett. Do they need another outside back, South Sydney? I know Fox is a gun and he's a very good player to have in your side, but realistically, the money you're going to have to pay him, do the South Sydney already have outside backs in their system they can cover that position with? I probably think they do. I don't know if they absolutely need him. I think Canterbury will be... I think they will make the decision to let Fox go. Where he lands, I'm not too sure. But one guy that, on his day, the best winger in rugby league, he has been one of the best wingers for quite some time. A guy that brings energy and whatnot. You might find that what's happened over the last few months, a little chip on the shoulder of Josh Addo-Carr potentially. He could go somewhere else and absolutely explode. So a really interesting one to see where he lands. I don't think he'll be at Canterbury. I actually think this will be a conversation about 25, not 26. And there'll be a number of clubs lining up for his signature. Number 5, Kat, one of the ones I'm really keen to sink my fangs into. Who we got?
All right, number 5. I know this is a good one and you briefly mentioned it before, I believe, but it's Cam McInnes.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, Kempy sort of highlighted something to me the other day that I just sat back and went, yeah, you're absolutely spot on. I think Cam McInnes is a really intriguing one because he is a guy that can sort of reset the attitude at a club. If you're going out and signing a Cam McInnes, that says that this is the sort of guy we're looking to build around. You're not going to get him cheap. He's an Origin player now. If he comes into your system, Kempy said the other day the West Tigers would be great, and I thought that is absolutely fucking perfect, and I hadn't thought of it previously. If the West Tigers were to go and sign a Cam McInnes, that just sends a completely new message about the direction they're going in and the sort of club they want to be, and I think he is one of those guys that can come to a club and can lift standards. You looked at what the Cronulla Sharks did a couple of years ago, went out and got Dale Finucane. You look at what the Dolphins have done, going to get those old boys from down in Melbourne. I think Cam McInnes is one of those dudes, and I think he would be a great signing for a number of clubs down the bottom that really want to build a strong defensive attitude and a strong defensive DNA. I think Cam McInnes would be the perfect signing to be one of those guys. Once again, you're not going to have to pay an absolute mozza for him. He's a very up and down footballer, but toughness, as we know, incredibly important in our game. The guy is resilient as fuck. I think he'd be a great signing for a number of clubs, especially those clubs down the bottom that are probably looking for a real leader in their forward pack. I think the West Tigers are without a doubt one of those. If I'm the Tigers, I'd be willing to pay a little bit overs to get this guy. They've got the flash and the ability and the outside backs now and the halves and the hooker and whatnot. Just getting that one forward that's just tough as nails, I think it could be a fantastic signing. But once again, if I'm the Sharkies, I'm looking at the next 2 to 3 years going, this is a premiership window. And I personally think if the Sharkies are to win a comp in the next 2-3 years, I think Cam McInnes absolutely has to be part of that squad. Really interesting one, Cam McInnes. We're into the top 4 now, Kathmandu. What have we got at number 4?
All right, we are into the top 4 now, but we're still with the Sharks, and this is Ronaldo Mulitalo.
Mulitalo. Now, one thing that has shocked me that I realised the other day, Mulitalo is like 3rd or 4th on the Cronulla Sharks all-time try-scoring list. He hasn't played that many games. It really is crazy what he's done in the early parts of his career. What I would say though, he's a great player at the Sharkies. He has been for a long time. He's a bit like Josh Addo-Carr. He brings a little bit of attitude. He brings a lot of energy to the squad. He's already a great Shark. If he stays there for the entirety of his career, he could go down as one of the great Sharks realistically. I think out of Nikora, McInnes, Mulitalo, I think Mulitalo is the one that the Sharks can replace the easiest. And I'm not saying that Sam Stonestreet's the same as Mulitalo, but I think the like for like, I think you can probably get away with playing Stonestreet there and letting Mulitalo go, which would free up money to maybe go into the market for someone else. Personally, I would be keeping Mulitalo at this club. I think he's too good to let go of. I think he brings too much energy, but this is the reality of the salary cap. You have to let people go that you don't want to let go at some point. And this is the price you pay for success. The Sharkies, they've been a top 8 team the last few years. All their players are playing good footy. They've just stumbled at the last hurdle. It's like they've been raising the price of all their players without ever actually achieving anything. The next 2 to 3 years is obviously going to be that premiership window for them. They've got big name players in Hines, AFB at the club and whatnot. Something's got to give somewhere. Thankfully, they've managed to bring Iddo into the system, a young guy they're not spending much money on there, but something has to give. Nikora, McInnes, Mulitalo, I'm not sure if they can hold on to all 3 of these guys. Can they get a like for like from Briton Nikora? Yeah, they probably can. But I don't know if they've got anyone that has anywhere near the upside of Briton Nikora. Cam McInnes, honestly, there's only one Cam McInnes in this league. I meant to say before on Cam McInnes, I remember at the start of the season when Madge announced his top 30 squad for the Blues, and Cam McInnes was one of them. I went, holy fuck, how good is that? That is sending a message. It is hard to find guys like Cam McInnes. There are not too many of them around. I don't think the Sharkies have another guy in this squad that can step into that role. I think you have to keep McInnes. Mulitalo is probably the one that I think is replaceable. Stonestreet won't be as good, but I think the value that you're paying Sam Stonestreet and what you can get out of him compared to what you get out of Mulitalo, you get more out of Mulitalo, but the value, and that's what it's all about when it comes to managing a salary cap, it's the value you get out of each and every dollar. I think Mulitalo could be the one that could hit the open market, and if he does, my God, the amount of clubs that will be lining up to get him. Once again, he's one of those guys that can bring energy. I know that when the Canterbury Bulldogs went and signed Josh Addo-Carr in the first place, that was one of those big reasons they went after him. A great player, a great winger, a great finisher, but he also just brings an energy and a confidence to your footy side. And Mulitalo, very, very similar. You got to remember with Mulitalo, obviously he plays for the Kiwis. He was picked for Queensland a couple of years ago. If he was allowed to play in that game for Queensland, he would be an automatic in the Queensland side every single year, in my opinion. He is that good. He's a genuine star of our game. I think he's one of the best wingers in rugby league. I think he's a little bit slept on because he doesn't play State of Origin and whatnot, but he would be a huge signing for a number of clubs out there. Something is going to have to give it the Sharkies, and it wouldn't surprise me, unfortunately, if it is Mulitalo, but we'll see how it plays out. Number 3, Kathmandu. We've got a little combo here.
Yeah, we've got a combo out of the Broncos looking at Selwyn Cobbo and Katoni Staggs. 2
guys that have been a big talking point over the last couple of months. Katoni Staggs obviously played for the Kangaroos last season, came back this year, had a good year. I still don't think we're seeing the absolute best out of Katoni Staggs, and maybe my expectations for him are too high, but he's a guy that with his ability, year, I think he should be running for 150 metres every week. I think sometimes he can sort of chill on his edge and you don't think he goes looking for the football enough. Selwyn Cobbo, he's an absolute freak, but he has his downfalls. There's no denying it. Was only 12 months ago. He was sitting on podcasts, taking shots at the coach, pretty unheard of sort of stuff. He has got these moments where he can have 3 or 4 errors in a game, and a lot of the times they are sort of lazy errors. They're big concerns around both these guys, and I do wonder how both these guys are going to fit under Michael Maguire. I do think Cobbo could really struggle under Madge, if I'm completely honest. Stags as well. I think Madge will expect a lot more out of Stags, and maybe it is that Kevin Walters has sort of told him, you're the Ferrari, you sit out there, you get the ball and we give you the ball and you take them on. Maybe that is the case. I think the game has changed and move away from that. And with Stags, if I'm coaching against Stags, the last thing I want to see is him hungry coming out of his own end, which I don't think we see enough of. If I'm coaching the Brisbane Broncos, that's what I'd like to see. Obviously, a lot of clubs would be very interested in these guys. Stags, I think he's a genuine centre, out-and-out centre. I look at the Sydney Roosters. They're a side that is now without Joey Manu. They're going to have to bring in a lot of young guys to play centre. They're probably going to have to move Marky Mark into the centres or something to cover that position. They've got Dom Young, Daniel Tupu. They are short of centre. I think Stags would be a really interesting get for them. Selwyn Cobbo, I mean, he can be, when you get Cobbo to his absolute best and when he matures a little bit more, he can be the best centre, the best winger in rugby league and be a very, very good fullback as well. So his stocks are enormous, Selwyn Cobbo. I don't think there's a world where both of these guys stay at the Broncos. Maybe this Mam situation could change things a little bit, but I don't think there's a world where both of them stay there. I think you can only keep one of them. I think Michael Maguire will probably lean more towards Katoni Staggs. Potential-wise, I think we're just scratching the surface of Selwyn Cobbo. But you've got to be confident that you are the right coach and the right system to get the absolute best out of him. If the Melbourne Storm were to go and sign Selwyn Cobbo, I think what a tremendous signing. If the Tigers go out and get him, I'd say it's not going to work there. We know this isn't going to work. The right system has to go out and get Cobbo, and if they do, we will have a genuine superstar in our hands. 2 very interesting talking points and 2 very interesting players to watch on the open market over the next 12 months. Number 2, Catman. I'm excited about this one.
I know, you took the words out of my mouth because I was going to say I'm sure you're very excited to talk about this one. He's one that you've touched on a number of times over the past few weeks because there's a real need for a player like this guy in a lot of clubs. Yeah. So let's talk about number 2, which is Leo Thompson. Yeah,
Leo Thompson. Look, when you look through that list, if you told me to write down, the top 10 best players on that list, when you're talking about Cobbo, Staggs, Mulitalo, McInnes, Fox, Nikora, Teddy. Look, I don't know if Leo Thompson gets into the top 5 realistically, but there are so many clubs that are just fucking crying out for a guy like Leo Thompson. I've said it for a long time. I think he will end up in that class of Rhea Hargraves, James Fisher-Harris, Toyota Harris, like those just alphas that you want in your team. The stats might not blow you away. The Supercoach points might not blow you away. But when the 16 other dudes that run out with this guy, he fills them with confidence. And from talking to guys in Newcastle, Leo Thompson is one of those fellas. The Knights, they have already lost Daniel Saifidi. They are already short in the middle forwards. They absolutely have to re-sign Leo Thompson. I personally think this re-signing will be club defining for the Newcastle Knights. I've said it for a while. I stand by it. I said it the other day on Bloke. Kempy sort of said, you're paying for potential. And I agree you are because we haven't quite seen it yet. But for me, eye test-wise, I've seen enough that I would be confident to back this guy in that he's going to turn into a premier front row forward, but more importantly, a premier alpha in this competition. I think there are so many clubs that would be crying out for Leo Thompson. And honestly, I can't think of a club that wouldn't be better off without Leo Thompson. I can't think of a club that I would look at and go, Leo Thompson wouldn't be worth them having at their club. He has just got something that is very, very unique in our game that not many guys bring. Obviously, the Kiwis, they played the Kangaroos last week. One notable omission, Leo Thompson. I think he will make a huge difference. Assuming they beat Tonga this week, they play the Kangaroos in the final. Leo Thompson coming back into that side, for me, that is an enormous needle mover. I think that is a huge shake-up there. A lot of clubs will be coming after him from, if he signs at the Melbourne Storm, straight away I go, okay, that's the dude they've been missing. That's the guy in the pack they've been missing. If the West Tigers sign him, I go, yep, that's the alpha that they've needed. There isn't a club that could sign Leo Thompson that I wouldn't go, what a cracking fucking signing. Even the Warriors, they've just signed James Fisher-Harris. I would still go, my God, Barnett, Leo Thompson, Fisher-Harris. That could be the baddest football team I've ever seen. You do not want to deal with them. Leo Thompson, the Newcastle Knights must keep him in Newcastle. If they let him go, it's an absolute disaster. the Canterbury Bulldogs are the other club that I think would be a fantastic signing, and I have no doubt they'll be sniffing around him. Honestly, if it wasn't for the absolute superstar that's at number one, I almost think Leo Thompson is the most interesting person on this list. But let's get to number one, a genuine star in our game, a Dally M medalist. Who have we got, Kat?
Well, you took the intro out of my mouth, but it is Ryan Papenhuyzen.
Ryan Papenhuyzen, obviously down there at the Melbourne Storm, available to talk to other clubs, a premiership winner, a Clive Churchill medalist. He's had a couple of injuries over the last few years. There's no denying that. A very good goal kicker as well. I think he is the most interesting guy here. And you know what? I think he's the most interesting guy, but I don't think the storyline will actually be that wild the way it plays out. I think he will stay at the Melbourne Storm. But I'll tell you what, if I am the Cronulla Sharks, and as I said, something's got to give on this list, whether it's a McInnes, Nikora, Mulitalo, I reckon the Sharkies will lose one of these guys. I would be seeing if there is an opportunity for 2026 for me to bring Ryan Papenhuyzen to my club. As I've said, Will Kennedy's a very good player. You get a 6 or 7 out of 10 every single week from Will Kennedy. Very rarely do you get your 8, 9s, 10s. For me, I think in this competition to win a premiership, you need to have a fullback that has got the 8, 9, 10s in them. I think that is just the reality of the competition. Not all positions are equal in a rugby league team. Fullback, you have to have high-end potential. And I think Ryan Papenhuyzen at the Cronulla Sharks could be an absolute needle mover, and I think it could be the last little thing they need to go and win a comp. You go back to 2016 when they won that comp, a very good side, but do they win it if they didn't go out and sign Ben Barber? I probably doubt it personally. I think Pappy could have a similar influence at the Sharkies. I would be willing to let one of these other guys go to free up space to go and get him, especially in this window where you've still got Hines, you've still got AFB. It's a very good side. You got, the hooker who hasn't played rep football. You're not paying a mozza for him. A lot of your forward pack outside of Cam McInnes, they don't play Origin. They might play New Zealand reps and whatnot, but you're not paying huge overs for you guys. Jesse Raymond, he is an international. He is in a State of Origin centre. Kale Itero, very young in his career. They've probably got him signed up for another year or two. Sione Katoa, I don't think you're ever going to have to pay him an absolute mozza to keep him there. They're in a very good spot, but I would love to see Craig Fitzgibbon dive in off the deep board and go, let's go out and get ourselves a superstar fullback. I think Pappy could be that guy. He's already convinced Dale Finucane and Nico Hines to leave Melbourne and come up there. Why couldn't he do it with Pappy? The other one, which I've heard rumours, I personally don't buy it myself, but we'll talk about it. The Roosters potentially making a play at Ryan Papenhuyzen. I can see a world where potentially Teddy retires at the end of this season and maybe they make a play at Ryan Papenhuyzen. I could see that happening. I don't think Teddy's ready to retire just yet, though. But once again, if it's the difference between Teddy going to play for another club or retiring at the Roosters to allow Pappy to come in, maybe you make a decision there. The other option, potentially Teddy moves to 5'8". They don't really have a 5'8" lined up at the moment. They've got Sandon Smith, who he might be that guy, maybe not. I'm not entirely sure yet. I really like him. But is he a 5'8"? I'm not entirely sure. Sam Walker will be the 7. You have Sam Walker at halfback, maybe Teddy at 5'8" for the back end of his career, maybe Pappy at fullback. It's a little bit outside the box. It's a rumour I've heard. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. And as I said, guys, I don't know if I entirely believe it. But would it really shock you if the Roosters went out and got Ryan Papenhuyzen and had that one really good crack? I've said that I thought it would be Caleb Ponga for a long time. But it wouldn't shock me if they do go out and get a Ryan Papenhuyzen there. Personally, though, guys, I think the Melbourne Storm, they are another team that they would be looking at their premiership window. They'd be looking at the Penrith Panthers and where they stand right now and the players they're losing and whatnot. Surely all this success and all this effort the Panthers have gone through over the last few years, it has to catch up to them eventually. If I'm Ryan Papenhuyzen, I'd be looking around the room and going, I've got Harry Grant, Cam Munster, Jerome Hughes. I'd be staying at the Melbourne Storm because I think they will win premierships over the next few years. The Roosters, they've had a great side for a long time. They haven't really managed to win it. Craig Fitzgibbon, as the Sharkies coach, they've won one big game in finals footy in the last 3 years. Is the monkey off the back? I think it is, but we won't quite know just yet. Grand final is a completely different thing once again. If I'm Pappy, I'm staying at the Melbourne Storm. I know Suafalongo's down there, but if I can keep the man in the arena that's proven he can do it on the big stages, and maybe Sua can. Maybe he can, but I know Pappy can. I know that when the big stages arrive, I know what I'm going to get out of him. If I'm the Melbourne Storm, I'd be trying to keep Pappy there. I think that's how it will play out, and I think he's the biggest superstar that is coming off contract that can negotiate with teams come tomorrow. November 1st. Guys, today's episode is brought to you by Neds. Jump on to the Neds app, follow along with the Guru profile and all of my bets during the Pacific Championships. So we've got Melbourne Cup coming up too. I'll have my tips on there as well for you to follow. Make sure you jump on the Neds app and follow along with the Guru profile.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.